Every single solitary, serious investigator, including your network and others, have looked at this, have said there's absolutely zero basis to the accusation that I acted any way inappropriately or that my son did. Every major national, international, and local news operations looked into it has said it's a lie. This is the president who's flat lying. So there's not been a scintilla of evidence pointing out that anything is wrong. There's not a single solitary scintilla of evidence anywhere. There's not been one scintilla of evidence that my son ever interfered, that I ever asked me anything, that I ever got involved in anything. I mean, come on. This is...
So
These guys are amazing.
So you think that everything that happened was kosher?
You know there's not one single bit of evidence, not one little tiny bit, to suggest anything done was wrong. You know that.
Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. So, guys, I think we can all agree, right, that both sides in Washington have people that really can't be trusted, right? They're all just political animals, man, on both sides. You got Pelosi, Schumer, McCarthy, McConnell, Nadler. There's a ton more, man. These people are all the same. You know, people, they make fun of you when you talk about the uniparty like you're some kind of conspiracy theorist, but these people, they're it, man. That is what they mean. They are the same. They are two wings of the same bird. It's a very, very cliche way to put it, but it's true. However, there are a few people, man, that really, really are just about as close to unimpeachable as is probably possible in government, right? And the ones that come to mind to me are people like Chuck Grassley, Daryl Issa, and I'm sure there's many, many, many more. But those two, I'm sure of. I'd bet the farm on, right? They play the game just a little bit differently than the rest of them. And generally, the game is played by just confusing the hell out of everyone, man, by obfuscating any true motive or reason for just about everything that they do, right? From votes to bills to everything. I mean, nothing is what it seems. I mean, you got the Inflation Reduction Act was actually a climate bill. That's just one small example. Now, the Biden impeachment inquiry is no exception. People are confused, which really is exactly the point of a web of shady offshore tax sheltering accounts with ties to more nations than most people even know America keeps an interest in. That's exactly the point, to confuse. And it's worked. People are confused, right? But not Daryl Issa. You know, he seems to have a pretty good handle on what's going on. And he wants to do what he can to make sure that it's explained plainly as possible to as many people as will listen. And I'll explain everything I mean in a moment, guys. But first, if you haven't already, please help our channel continue to grow. You know, moving into 2024, guys, it's going to be more and more difficult to get conservative voices heard, right? We all know that. So we're going to have to do this work together, guys. So please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. So Democrats, man, they have so many talking points with so many propagandized parrots yapping and repeating it. Just people on the internet, people in our neighborhood, everywhere, right? They hear these things that are ridiculous and they feel inclined to repeat it, man, like a bad game of telephone. So many of this, you know, so much of this going on that it's almost impossible to keep up with, right? But the general theme is that this is all about Hunter Biden. And anything having to do with Joe, all that's evidence of is evidence of a father's undying love for his son. And beyond that, they were both private citizens, yada, 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 yada. But here's the best part. They want you to swallow the narrative, you know, the line that the inquiry was started without any evidence. Well, apparently they're banking on the hope that we're all too stupid to actually know what the word inquiry even means. You know, the Democrats themselves will tell you that all things corruption related are just a bunch of smoke, right? Well, but then they claim you're a crazy right winger for thinking that we should look into the smoke and see if maybe there's a fire.
I think it's interesting that you just said for political purposes, because if you take a look at polls and Hispanic Americans, Hispanics are not as in support of Biden as they were when he ran for election. In fact, a majority now are in support of Trump, and that would be because of the illegal immigration problem. And Americans, Spanish Americans, Hispanic Americans that came in here legally are not appreciating the ignorance that's happening on our border. I got to move on to another topic with you before I let you go. You sit on the Judiciary Committee. That's one of three that's going to be deeply involved in the impeachment inquiry into President Biden. And it could be putting House Republicans in a bind of their own making because they don't vote yet. And they don't have the votes to motion for his removal. Much of the House GOP has tried to keep, the question of a full-scale removal vote at arm's length. Some believe the razor-thin majority is at stake. So the question for you is, will the formalized inquiry empower them to do more?
Well, Julie, the late Margaret Thatcher said famously that you had to win the debate before you won the vote. It's one of the reasons that pushing back or sending to committee has been important. We need to win the debate. We need to win the American people's hearts and minds and recognition that, in fact, this president has committed impeachable offenses, that he has lied to us about his relationship with his son and his business dealings that he was so involved in, and quite frankly, other things. So can we have that debate soon enough and get the vote across? I hope so. I believe we can, but it's going to require all three committees to do their job in a very public way so the public understands we're not going after the president for political purposes. We're going after the former vice president for criminal activity done on his watch with his family.
Congressman Daryl Issa, thank you for talking to us. Mary.
Yeah, so you guys see that. And I know that you guys know that, right? I guess this video really is kind of preaching to the choir, but it is important stuff, right? If this just shakes one person out of the fog, this would be a major victory. But here's the thing. We don't know if Joe Biden committed crimes as vice president, but it is very, very fair to say that anyone who looks at the whole picture objectively would believe that it looks highly likely. And if he did, then of course that is an impeachable offense. Any corrupt public official should be held accountable. Every single one. There's not a reasonable person on either side of the aisle that can argue against that. But they do. It's crazy. Here's where I am with all this, man. So many people believe that an impeachment of Joe would go nowhere in the Senate. And you know what? I'm probably inclined to agree with that, right? When you look at the one recent example that we have of an impeachment of a president that actually committed a crime, not the Donald Trump stuff, but Bill Clinton, without a doubt, was guilty of perjury. But he was still acquitted along partisan lines. That's just kind of the way it works. And that was back then. But these crimes, if what we think Joe did is true, if these crimes are proven, they're a whole hell of a lot more serious than perjury. And my hope is if they are proven, that if these crimes, if they can prove it, Republicans can prove them so thoroughly that enough Democrats have no choice but to convict the guy, to expel the guy, to do the right thing. We could even see some of them lobbying for it, for political gamesmanship, just to get rid of the guy. But, we'll either see that or a more likely scenario, they acquit him along partisan lines. And I think what would happen then is any Democrat voter that's still in any kind of danger of thinking for themselves will finally see the true and full story of their party. And that, I believe, is the real fear of the Democratic Party, right? I think that they're afraid that if this thing runs its course, that reasonable people, regardless of what issues inspire them to vote, will not be able to, in good conscience, be able to vote for Biden and probably not even vote for a Democrat. But we'll see what happens. That's all I've got, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, please help our channel continue to grow. Like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. We'll see you in the next one.